Cloud Brokerage basically solved much of the riddle that it took me all year of burnout to try and figure out. And that is real estate agents are expected to do the trick. The trick is buy, sell house, right? Buy, sell house is one part of the trick of this business. But the other part of the business is you have got to build other revenue streams in your life so that you just don't get caught doing tricks all the time. Okay. When you go to Cloud Brokerage, it's by the people for the people. So everybody there is building the company together. Like I went to a company that rewards me for being a thought leader.
I'm Leigh Brown. This is Real Talk with Leigh Brown, and I really hope that you have brought your patience with you today because I've brought on one of the smartest people in real estate who happens to be a woman and who happens to be so smart that she's sending my eyes in swirling directions while we talk. So if you're a real estate nerd, this is for you. If you are a property rights nerd, this is for you. If you are a consumer, there's something for you, but you're going to have to dig in there and hang out for a few minutes because I promise you, you're going to learn something. So I've got Amanda DiVito Parle with me today, straight from Colorado. Enjoy the conversation with your notepad. I'll see you on the other side. This is real estate brokerage weedy talk. So wherever you live, you might have an EXP agent, but you won't necessarily know because it might have their name and at the bottom it says powered by EXP. You might have a real broker, which you would recognize because the letters look a little bit weird, and that's one of the ways that they're recognizable. You, of course, recognize the RE/MAX red over white over blue. You recognize Keller Williams, and Compass is the up-and-comer that is in the headlines all the time. And of course, every kind of brokerage has its own business model. And both of Amanda and I will totally tell you, every brand has good brokers. Every brand has brokers you don't really want to affiliate with. Every brand has good and bad points. That's just real estate. Not everything's for everybody. And when Amanda's talking about cloud brokerage, we're talking about the ones that primarily are technology focused, as opposed to your traditional, what we would call a brick and mortar company, which has the office you can drive by. Now, with that being added in as a little bit of an explainer, we totally forgot to introduce you and let them tell you who you are. So why don't you tell our audience who you are, besides the fact they know you're the daughter of a retired realtor now and where you're located, and then we'll pick back up with the new intersection of real RE/MAX.
So my name is Amanda DiVito Parle, and I'm a real broker in Denver, Colorado, but a former 22-year RE/MAX. I run a small team here in Denver, 10 people total, 5 in sales, 5 in staff. We're small and mighty, and we do residential real estate in Denver.
Okay, so there you go. And Denver, of course, is the home stomping grounds and the birthplace of RE/MAX, which makes it very RE/MAX heavy. So changing from a RE/MAX lifer to anything else is definitely it's hard to think about doing it because you think that people affiliate you with the brand, but then I guarantee you discovered what I did when I left RE/MAX after 20 years to go independent, that my clients didn't give two rips. They were like, oh, okay, whatever. And I was like, I mean, you're not looking at me as a RE/MAX? I'm like, I was like, okay.
It's a personal service business. I mean, they come to you because they love you.
Right.
They come to me because they love me. They didn't care where I was flying my flag, really, at that point. They were like, whatever, just tell us where to be and push where to sign, basically. So it's been good. The transition's been good for me. But I think the takeaway for the public, the consumer, is the real estate environment is shifting rapidly.
Yes, very much so.
And so that's a little jostling for the consumer, and it's a lot jostling for the real estate agent. So there's just a lot of shifting happening in the industry. That happens a lot in many industries. I mean, I don't think this is unique to our business. I think people who work in oil and gas, or people who work in technology, people who work in, aerospace or healthcare, there are constantly mergers and acquisitions. There's constantly companies absorbing people. There's constantly change. Anybody who works in corporate America knows, towing the corporate line is a challenge. And I think real estate has been wildly independent for 40 years.
Forever.
For 40 years, really before the MLS book or the MLS or the internet. But you had to walk into a brokerage house to get real estate information. And born of the MLS was really independence. And now I think it's pulling back into a much larger brokerage models are becoming larger. So lots of mergers and acquisitions, lots of boat rocking in our business for sure.
which I hate since I'm against big everything, big pharma, big food, big ag, big everything is big is terrible, but that's just me. Okay, so you went
Except for big hair in the South.
to what?
Except for big hair in the South.
Higher the hair, the closer to God. I mean, that's a maxim of life. And I can't live without hairspray. So you people know how vain I am. That's why you seldom see me on this show without my hair fully fixed. All right. So you went from a very well established international brand to a very big time up and comer brand that's really just in huge growth phase. How does it feel when you make the big change and it's huge and you're excited and then all of a sudden they're coalescing at the same place? Do you feel like which culture is gonna survive if you have to guess? Because I mean, nobody really knows what the details will look like, but what's your gut feeling?
Well, like in every merger and acquisition, they say stuff like Remax is going to stay Remax and Real is going to stay Real, and you guys are all going to be fine. And so I'm towing that line today. But I do think if I were to speculate, which is all speculation, that I do think that there will be some emerging of the brands because I think it would be foolish of Real Broker to let go of sort of the recognizable balloon brand.
Especially globally. That's the only brand that really has a footprint across the globe in a
For
meaningful
sure.
way.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think they would be really foolish to let the balloon go. I think that in terms of the way real estate agents operate their businesses, I think that the technology platform of wholly owned brokerage will survive. And so if we can be a wholly owned brokerage company on a tech platform with our own tech stack, then I think they will win and maybe they fly the balloon with the real brand eventually. But they are not saying that today. The internet broke over people saying that Remax is going to stay Remax. And that's fine for now. I'm not speaking for the corporation at all. I have no idea what Tamir Poleg, the CEO of Real Remax Group's intentions will be. But I do think that over time, these models will merge into one model likely.
Well, to me, or just listen to us, the smartest thing you could do with the name is just stick an AL in there and call it Real Max. That is the only way to go. So you can have both names and you can change the colors of the balloon. But please don't go back to the sideways balloon because a lot of us have PTSD from how much we got yelled at when it
Because the
went
balloon
from
was
this
crooked. Right. Can we just stand the balloon up? Well,
well,
they did a rebrand. They did a rebrand a year ago and people were mad that the balloon looked like the Pepsi logo. So I don't know. There's no
I agree with that one because this current balloon is way too modern. I mean, come on, Remax, you are not the modern brand.
they were sure trying. Sure trying.
Okay, foreshadowing? But you know what's funny to me is I was getting recruited by Remax to come back, and I also talked to some people at Real Broker about should I go over there, and of course EXP, and I've got values issues over there, not with the agents and the brokers, but with
Yeah, I know.
the way they
Yeah.
handle things. But to watch all this shake out is interesting to see. And what's crazy to me, you as a broker, you're raised in the business like I'm raised in the business. And so we've been around it longer than we've been in it. And you look at the way that the business side of it runs. And I just can't help but wonder how many agents are going to stumble across this show and say, what are they talking about? I'm a Remax agent and I didn't know this was going on because they're in that transactional phase that you're talking about. So they're not reading the headlines and they're not reading their emails. They're just out there doing another buyer, another
Sure.
seller, and they're doing a wonderful job. They're delightful humans, but they're not thinking about the next month, 6 months, a year from now. And I do wonder what organized real estate is going to look like because it's not just the upheaval on the brokerage side, it's the upheaval on the association side, and then the property rights piece is a wildly changing space that I'm not sure we're as active in as we should be, but everything is up in the air right now. It's kind of wild.
Mhm.
So, what do you think it's going to take for the average agent to finally wake up and start showing up at meetings and paying attention?
Well, I think that sadly, the Department of Justice coming after our industry did well. I originally had said that I thought the Department of Justice was coming after the real estate industry for tax revenue. I think they looked upon our industry and said, there are way too many real estate agents writing off their Teslas and sports tickets. Like, I've had enough. We're coming after them for revenue. But I think now the Department of Justice came after the real estate industry for power. And it's so obvious now, but I didn't originally get that far into the dialogue. And so I think ultimately the Department of Justice likes what they can control. And I think that the real estate industry was an unruly pack. We were very
Agree.
independent. We were hard to govern. We were hard to control. We were very independent. And the Department of Justice succeeded in basically dismantling independence by suing the industry, basically creating a vacuum by where there's going to be a handful of very large companies. I sort of jokingly call it the Big Four. And the Big Four is the evolution of independents having to run for shelter under one of the Big Four's umbrellas.
I never thought about it in this way. That the DOJ would have had their sights set on how do you create more consolidation because we are by nature a bunch of renegades. And then you add on to that the pretty roundly awful, my brain is running in a thousand directions right now. Thanks, Amanda. Thanks.
You're
So
welcome, I know.
the awful legal strategy that NAR had of how they managed the first of the nasty class action suits that was found against us in October of 23. But when the settlement came out and the National Association of Realtors did not provide cover to any company with 2 billion or more in revenues, so they told the independents, "We'll protect you." And the big guys are all going to get cut out, but the big guys represent something like 60% of the real estate done in the country. So the association effectively alienated all of the big companies who are now consolidating into this big four. So the small guys that had protection from NAR when NAR bankrupts, which this is allegedly, I put the word like Baron Coleman, I put the word allegedly over my head. This is my opinion. I don't see how financially they withstand any more settlements. But when they bankrupt, who does speak for the independents? They won't have a voice. So I will be the small fry that has to go seek cover, as you so aptly put it. That's a man. Didn't expect us to go in this direction, but that's a fascinating perspective because I always have wondered since March of 24 when the settlement was agreed to, why the big brokers haven't pushed back on NAR yet.
Well, because the big brokers win in this. And so the Big Four philosophy is let's just assume that the Big Four ends up being Compass Anywhere, which now is going to be 340,000 global agents. You take somebody like Real Remax, which is going to be the most productive agents by transaction count, and their headcount will be at roughly 180,000 brokers.
Mhm.
You take an unlikely merging of maybe somebody like Keller Williams and EXP, and as these headlines drop, don't be surprised. Okay.
Sense because the EXP agents left Keller Williams. So it's because that was the first offshoot of the downline business model. As much as it feels hilarious to me to think about the difference in cultures between the two styles of business, it actually makes sense. But carry on. I just got distracted by that. So that's your third one.
Right. And then so you have the Rocket Redfin model, which is for, and there's always a place for a discount broker in the space.
Oh, of course there
Okay.
is. We won't
So
call
you
them.
have,
We'll just call them less expensive.
yeah, sure. So you have the Rocket Redfin model, and they platform themselves on redfin.com. You're going to have the cloud brokerage model, which really naturally was aligned with Zillow because cloud brokerage typically was teams. Teams typically were paying for Zillow Flex. And so they naturally aggregated together. So my original big four was that your franchises would stick together and your cloud brokers would stick together. The part I didn't see coming is that we were going to pick off two models, put them together and marry them with an online
Right.
lead. So homes.com, realtor.com, Zillow.com, and redfin.com are the top four places for syndication for the consumer. And so it is a likely big four that big real estate companies basically merge under each of these banners so that they can have access to the consumer while consolidating headcount. Now, you and I both know that the National Association of Realtors was the club for real estate agents to network at. And before MLS existed, inside Brokerage House were two things, the data and the keys. And so large brokerage house went to the club to network and share information. And they birthed a bouncing baby boy known as the MLS. And the MLS was the place where the realtor, in partnership with the brokerage, birthed the information. And that triangle was what was actually broken at the Department of Justice. All three of those legs were then decoupled, essentially, was the word we hear used.
Mhm.
And the decoupling effectively broke the three-legged stool that is mother, father, son. And so by breaking up this tribe, the National Association of Realtors being one of those sort of key pillars, the MLSs being the other key pillar, and brokerage house being the third, essentially created a vacuum by where the big four can get to exist. And the independents essentially are going to be forced to run for cover. I humbly submit to an independent friend of mine. But I just think that there is going to be if Robert Refkin is successful, he is the owner of Compass Companies, who just acquired Anywhere Companies, and he has a broad vision to essentially create a big tent for data. And if he can create the big tent for data, one of these days he can sever away the data from the MLSs, because the MLSs have become relatively cheap to buy and they're in consolidation mode right now. And if Robert Refkin severs, that we are one hot seller's market away from Robert Refkin essentially pulling all of his data from the area MLSs. And if he does that, 1/6 of the data will be removed from the MLS. And the magic listing system is what makes the real estate universe go round and round right now. And in which case, independents won't have access to the information. And the only reason the others in the big four will have access to the information is because they will have a data share agreement amongst themselves outside of the MLS. Did I break the internet?
We're now in AI world. So my question is, who builds the AI agent that scrapes all of these websites and then creates a new standalone data source that doesn't have to have permission from Compass or Anywhere or from Remax or EXP or any independent, because it's just going to scrape. Which that goes to the second thing you mentioned with the MLS, which is seldom talked about in the MLS questions that people are asking, which is the keys. Because I'm old enough in the business, and you are too, to remember when you had to go to the listing agent's office and check out a key, and then
That's
you
right.
had to unlock the house, and you had to take the key back. We had a key box in
Box.
our office that was locked and had copies of keys to hundreds of houses from our brokerage all around the couple of county area. And the MLS has provided for a wonderful resource for consolidated scheduling and for reducing friction from that process for agents and for buyers. That friction is going to come back, because I think that's where you're going to have, even if AI scrapes the data, so a buyer sees that this house over here is available, somebody wants to see it, and you wind up like I've been trying to get this one agent to call me back now for 2 weeks on her listing, which has been on the market for 8 months. She won't call me back because she doesn't want to arrange a showing, because she wants my buyer to get frustrated and call her direct. That's the future we're heading for. And you want to think the DOJ's been mad at us now. They're going to get real mad when consumers realize that all of this broke a system that was very efficient and very fair.
Alan J. Smith, who is a friend of ours, always says the finest
I love
invention.
Alan.
I know, me too. The finest invention of the 20th century was the MLS.
Mhm.
And I think that's right. And this is the piece consumers need to realize. The class. Oh, there we are.
Oh, okay. So let's start with Alan Smith and we'll edit right there.
So the finest invention of the 21st century was the MLS. And I think the thing that the consumers need to realize, or the thing that the consumer has to pick up, is that if this MLS key data game gets more complex, the transaction doesn't get less expensive for the consumer. Bingo.
Exactly.
Yes, that. And so if the transaction gets more complicated, and the thing of it is that in the name of trying to simplify everything in society, the real estate transaction has not gotten less complicated. It's an infrequent, rare, expensive, unique a transaction, and more professionalism is going to be needed, not less. And I don't care if you can go to ChatGPT and say, where do I order a real estate sign from? How do I hang a lockbox? How do I put my house into the internet? Fine, those things are easy. It's the skill, expertise, knowledge. It's the stuff hiding around the corner that the consumer doesn't know. It's the way I see around the corner for them that they will need me for in the future. So way less housewives in real estate, please.
Thank
Way
you.
less housewives in real estate. and way more professionalism that might cost the consumer more if it becomes more complex.
Much to the chagrin of the very angry man in Washington, D.C., named Stephen Brobeck. And I hope you see this because I'm learning how to pray for your hardened heart. But that man, as head of the Consumer Federation of America, has spent the last 40 years declaring that realtors don't deserve to be paid, that we add unnecessary cost to a transaction, which only tells me that either he's been in the same house for 40 years or he's been a renter for 40 years or he's the one guy that had a lucky transaction because every agent, if you're a consumer out there, every real estate agent gets one really easy transaction in the course of their career. You get one, and then you will spend the rest of your career trying to replicate that because you don't know how you got lucky. And if you're a realtor out there who hasn't had your one easy one, it's coming, and then it's going to vanish, and you'll have to remember that one easy cash deal with no inspection issues, no appraisal issues, no problems at all. But Brobeck was in the headlines again last week. He's very flummoxed. I just don't understand why, after all these lawsuits and all the work the DOJ has done, why are commissions so sticky? Well, it's because of what you just said, Amanda. We spend an inordinate amount of time helping somebody get from point A to point B when most of the time you never get to point B. So you're working and working and working. And sometimes a professional says, we need to pull up stakes. This is not your house. Let's call the attorney and talk about deposits, but this is not adding up for you. We stop getting paid sometimes because it's in somebody else's best interest, and you can't ever get a chat GPT to do that.
Well, in Colorado, we have no real estate attorneys participating in the transactional side of the business. So it is the realtor who is doing that. I am doing the part that the attorney does.
But you would never play attorney. I'm sure that in your fine print it says, let's find you an attorney if this goes into legal language.
What it says is that the realtor is allowed to practice a limited practice of law. That's what Colorado real estate says.
Colorado's law fine, girl. Y'all got to fix your state.
Well, shall we not go there now? Shall we not go there now? But I want to put a fine point on this really quick. The real estate agents are the ants. I love a good analogy. It is the real estate agent that comes into the consumer's house, walks the house, counts the ceiling fans and the bedrooms and the bathrooms, and sits down to the magic listing system and makes the data accurate. And this is the other thing you have to remember. Data wasn't always accurate. The consumers weren't always truthful about the condition of their house or what was inside. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I mean in the way that a third party can come in and see your house for what it is. They can accurately display that information in the MLS. And so if the real estate agent ceases to be the ant, there will be no data scraping away for the AI bots if there is no data to begin with, okay? So you have to remember that it is the aggregation of Amanda, Leigh, going into the house, counting the ceiling fans, sitting down to the magic listing system, putting it in the MLS, and the MLS syndicating it away to Zillow, Realtor.com, and Homes.com, okay? So that's the process of how the information got here for you to scrape it to begin with. So the point is that without ants, the consumers are going to be the ants, or we're going to have bots counting your ceiling fans? Maybe. Sure. Like, I'll go anywhere with you. If you'd like to go into the matrix, fine. But somebody has to do the data aggregation. Somebody has to start the information somewhere.
We talk about the one thing agents have failed to recognize as they get involved in these conversations. They're not thinking about the fact that the data we're fighting over comes from individuals who input the data that was collected by these individuals.
The ants.
And they're paying and yelling at Zillow, Homes.com, Realtor.com, Redfin. They yell at all the websites, and they never recognize that, well, as the good witch Glenda said, the power was within you all along, Dorothy, because we're the ones who do gather that data. But even if you consider the fact that you could set a camera in a house, like so many of these measuring tools and the floor plan Matterport kind of tools, they will measure it and look at it. It's not the same thing because until the internet has smell-o-vision, there's still going to be a huge factor out there that can't be accounted for by anything less than a human. Because back to that thing about consumers, they think their house is fine. They're nose blind to the cats and the cigarettes because they live there.
Yeah, it's so true. It's going to be very interesting. So I think the takeaway for me is consolidation is going to continue to happen. I think that you're going to have these surprises about these brands who swore they would never be a KW agent. And guess what? They're going to be flying that tomorrow. They're going to be drinking that Kool-Aid, as they said. And so there is all kind of surprises around the corner. I think independents are under assault. I think that that's just a fact. And then, or an opinion fact. And then I think that the consumers actually come up short on this deal. I think the consumers lost big with the Department of Justice lawsuit, and more consolidation isn't actually good for the consumer. And if Robert Refkin is one of two things, John, chapter, is it 9 or 10, the Good Shepherd? So let's see, he's either a good shepherd or he's a thief.
I have
And
opinions.
if he's a thief, then we're going back to the old days of brokerage house making 50-50 splits on every deal because they will control the data and the keys.
Mhm.
And if he is a good shepherd, then he is going to shepherd his agents to be the professional that people have to come through to complete the transaction. And that is good for the consumers. Professional representation is good for the consumer.
But to that note, though, a true professional would not try to gatekeep information because the good professional knows what's the best for my seller and the best for my buyer could be a broader viewpoint on everything that's available in the marketplace. So to be the good shepherd, they would have to look beyond the walls of their brokerage. So back to what we had before it started getting broken in the first place.
Yeah, well, the irony is that he might have to break it to fix it.
Yeah. I guess that depends on if you are a believer that he's the one that could fix it or not. And I guess
Listen,
my jury is out. I haven't sat down and talked to him, but my jury is out.
I had a one-on-one with Refkin a year ago. Super nice guy. He's a family man. He's got little kids
Mhm.
at home. He's no different than you and I. The difference is he's a venture capitalist. Do you know what venture capitalists do? They get in and they get out. And they don't get out until they've squeezed all the juice out. Okay? So why is this venture capitalist hanging around our business for so long? Well, because there's more
Because
money in the
there's
deal. Okay? Not personal. He's a venture capitalist. That's all.
yes, but I take it personally. I'm just going to because
Don't.
it's
Don't.
oh, it's
Because
very
the Department of Justice put a vacuum in place and he just sucked right into it. So he is filling the vacuum that the Department of Justice set up for him.
yes, but wasn't that really set up by the World Economic Forum? Are we really going to go down that path? Because the globalists don't like that average Americans can own real estate because we are such a unique market in the whole world. That's the same people that want 20% down minimum, don't like the 30-year fixed. They're the ones that push all these hedge fund apartment complexes everywhere. There's really a whole movement afoot where Americans won't own real estate. And frankly, if you get the average realtor out of the way, a lot of Americans wouldn't own anything because our people with our little independent mindset, we're the ones that say, yes, you can. Let's figure it out. We have been figure it out people, but now the system is gathering so much that the practicing realtor is going to have a harder time figuring out how to fight through.
Okay. And the National Association of Realtors has been pushing the 15-minute walking community for 2 decades.
Sure has.
And the 15-minute walking community
It's evil.
essentially is Marxism.
Mhm.
Okay. So if you want to go there, we can go there, which is rent
Copy of
fleeting.
NAR's ESG report, girl. All these people that are like, oh, we're not involved in that. I'm like, come on, man. We have a corporate credit score, just like the Chinese communists want us to have at the National Association of Realtors. And go ahead, y'all. Come at me and tell me I'm wrong in the comments. I got all the receipts because our organization is so hungry to be in the good graces of the overlords out there. And that 15-minute city is part of that. I can't do that. I need my acreage, and there's only one way in and one way out, and I'm staying on my acreage.
Hey, listen, rent a house, rent a car, rent a scooter, rent a handbag. And private equity would love for people to rent the rest of their lives. You and I both know that the magic is in ownership. The magic of rooting down in your community is in ownership. The magic is in the schools. It's in the churches. It's in the local grocers. It's in the small businesses. It's in the insurance companies and the real estate practices and the dental practices on your block, USA. And the magic is not in renter culture with venture capital. So I say I'm with Leigh on this one. I'm not with Robert Refkin on any one thing, but I'm on Leigh's side with this one. And the National Association of Realtors can do better.
Which means, Robert, if you happen to watch this, which I don't think you watch my show because it would probably blow up, but Wiggins watches it. So what's up, James? So if you are really the good shepherd guy, then you will figure out how to keep the average everyday realtor involved in as many transactions as possible so that as many people as possible can achieve property ownership, whatever it looks like for them. Because saying that it's magical to have your own space, that is not an understatement, sister. You know how it feels, and it's not a race thing or a gender thing or an age thing. It's when somebody holds keys to their property for the first time and it's the tears coming down their face, like, "Ah, it's mine." There is nothing that replaces that feeling, which is also why we all have to be on our guard because in the profession, we often look at the consolidation and the MLS and the structure, and we've got our eye off the ball on the onerous level of property taxes and the cost of insurance, which is working to keep people out of property ownership as much or more as all of the drama going on around property ownership itself. Got a lot of people that are going to be hard pressed to stay in their houses if they get in there, but that's a whole different rabbit hole.
Oh, I mean, we could go down. I got about 9 holes we could go running down, but for now,
I was going to go water wars with you because you're in Colorado where the water wars are happening right now as data centers simultaneously just are pushed by the federal government to take our water away from the people. So you're going to feel that pressure faster than I am, but it's coming to all of us.
yeah, that's right. There is a 6-state problem in the West, and there is a giant fight over water shares. California lets all the fresh water run right into the ocean. They own all the water shares, so they could barely care. And the federal government wagged their finger at California and said, you got to figure out how to solve this water problem because Arizona, Texas, Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico have no water shares. Well, we traded water shares to Mexico in exchange for Texas in the 1800s. Okay, so fine. So we have water problems. And then we could desalinate the water. They do it in the Middle East. We could ship it down from the poles, which would be costly. We could do it. Or we could just be more responsible about maintaining the water. Colorado didn't get very much snow this year, and that's a real problem for us. And so you couple high insurance costs with high property taxes, with high wildfire danger, and all of a sudden you've got a recipe in a very dry winter for continued increase of housing costs. This thing gets more expensive for the consumer, not less expensive, that's for sure.
And simultaneously, they're shoving data centers on us at a rate that is absolutely unsustainable. But I don't know if you watch Baron Coleman's show or not. He's one of my favorite YouTube podcasters, very smart attorney. And he was he was showing the map of where the data centers are located. And then he showed not just the US map of current data centers. And by the way, y'all, a normal sized data center uses the same amount of water that a 50,000 person city uses for living, working, and cooperating. So you could take a 50,000 person city or large town, park a data center next to it, and then one data center is using the same amount of water as 50,000 humans. But then he showed the global map, and they're not planting these all over the world. It's primarily the US and Europe. So our water, which is already a scarce commodity and necessary for life, is going to be sacrificed to data centers so that the rest of the world can have AI. Something doesn't add up here. And by the way, y'all, if you think I sound a little bit crazy, just start doing a little bit of research because I know you like using Chat GPT to make the cute new headshot of yourself if you're a realtor, and that makes me so tired. Please stop that. But you made a cute new headshot of yourself, and that's using water, which is currently what they're trying to figure out in this multi-state region where the agreement has expired so that people can live in the house that they bought and have something to drink. I mean, it's an interesting conversation, and I sure do wish that the real estate bodies were speaking on data centers, but I was at the National Land Conference because I love the Realtors Land Institute, and I wish more realtors paid attention to that's probably the most impactful affiliate that we have. And there was a panel discussion on data centers. Well, of course, I'm right in the room because they're cropping up all over our area because our governor ran on that platform. Let's get in as many data centers as possible. But now that the negative impacts are starting to show, he's the one saying, oh, too many data centers. I'm like, you're such a jerk. You permitted all of these, and now you just act like you're Mr. Victim, but whatever. So I was listening to this panel, and they were all brokers who position data centers. There was nobody in opposition to it. So of course I had to go talk to them after, and I'm like, well, what about the other side? What about this? What about this? And all of them poo-pooed me with, you're just listening to negative people, and that's not true. So basically just blew me off like, silly little girl, shut up. And I'm thinking, are you that arrogant that you think we can't research for 25 seconds? But then I'm looking, and I don't know if I've missed it, but I haven't seen the National Association of Realtors put out a position statement, but they really should, because of water, because of property rights, because of the downstream impacts. I mean, it's wild times, girl. And that's just because you live in Colorado. It made me think about water because
Mm.
I do worry about water in Colorado.
You
Y'all
should
need
worry about water in Colorado. I worry about water in Colorado. There are communities in Arizona where they have actually shut the water off to the communities.
same thing in Texas.
This is a problem. Yeah, and then the AI safety people will tell you they're just gonna put data centers on the moon or whatever, where it's cool, or Mars or something, I don't know, and or Greenland. So that's gonna take a lot to get there, and so we shall see. We shall see.
Okay, so what did you want to talk about on the show today? Because we totally just went into hardcore nerdy real estate stuff, and then it only took me making one comment about the World Economic Forum to watch you go from little Miss Professional Realtor talking about things, and you went, which I love so much. And so I'd love to set you on fire again because that was fun. But what do you want to talk about before we wrap our episode up?
No, I think I know, you're hilarious, and you do, but you know so much. And that's the thing is I think there's this thing that's happening right now. There is a contingent of us who've been around this industry for somewhere between 20 and 30 years who watched the whole thing happen. We sat in those strat planning meetings at the National Association of Realtors. We were in the rooms. I was on the data share agreements between the two local MLSs. I was there when the Board of Realtors merged. I was there when young professionals started getting a foothold in the industry. I was there when legislative policy was going down. I was in these rooms when they were talking about fracking and water and all this other stuff in my state that was important. And there's a lot of people in the industry right now who don't know what's happening, and they don't have somebody to sort of tell them they weren't there. And it is important for those of us who were there in the room who sat through these conversations to show them, to reveal to young people in real estate, not young in age, but young in years,
Right.
about how this industry is shifting and changing. It is important for the industry to pay attention. It was the National Association of Realtors' job. It was the club's job to make sure that the realtor was paying attention. There is no such organization as the Homeowners Association of America.
Right.
It is the realtors who are doing the advocacy on behalf of the homeowner in America. 67% of people own homes. It is the realtors who are advocating on behalf of homeowners in America. So if we want to fix this, the National Association of Realtors may have some viability if they expand their homeowner membership. They have homeowner membership, but they aren't doing anything with it right now. So the National Association of Realtors could enhance their Homeowners Association of America, and there's one way they could do it simply. Amanda, at the time of your real estate transaction, could write a $29 subscription check in the name of Bob and Betty Homeowner. They would become a member of the National Association of Realtors. The Colorado legislature is putting out information regarding Colorado policies to the real estate agent. There's no reason they couldn't give it to the consumer too.
Right.
This is easy. It could be done with membership. So the homeowners could now have a stake in their future. You put 67% of homeowners behind that movement in a subscription-based model where they are participating in the legislative policy part of their state's health and well-being as it relates to home ownership. And you've got yourself a powerful force in America that would be unstoppable.
I could back that.
Thank you.
Don't know that anybody in legislature would listen because they're not currently listening to the majority anyway, but that would be far more impactful than what we have. And it's the best idea I've heard in a while.
Thank you. Ha. Ha ha. HAA.
We're going to have to workshop the name a little more because we don't want to be a joke. But all right, so what I'm going to say is that if you have stuck with us this long, you're probably our people. We're going to have to build a database of agents who have been in the business between 20 to 30 years, maybe 35, but not a lot further back than that because then they're like your dad and my dad, and they're like, peace out because this
I'm
is
playing
so
pickleball.
my dad celebrates being retired because he doesn't want to go through what we're going through. So,
Mine
love
too.
you, Dad. High five. So, 20 to 30 years in the business, and I'm sorry if you are a wonderful person who's been in for 15 years, you haven't seen what we've seen. So, we have to have the agents who saw a book, touched a book, checked out a key, and as you mentioned, we've been around for core standards and for the mergers and acquisitions and the end of the 80-person MLS in a rural area that did a bang up job serving a local market. We've watched them vanish. I think if we had a list of the people who understood this, we could probably have a conversation about how we how we brainstorm our way through it with something like a homeowners association of America or any other way to create a think tank that has an actual impactful voice. I love that you put it in the time frame. I love talking to you because it makes me like look off camera in a thousand directions because my brain is swirling right now. And if somebody wants to talk to you themselves, because you might need real estate in Denver, and Amanda's your girl, got a little
That's
team
right.
over there, very personal, very amazing, been around a long time. And she's, of course, with Real Broker slash Real Max, whatever they're going to call themselves now.
Broker for now. Yeah.
Just be honest. So you should reach out to her. Amanda, tell them how they find you if they want to have conversations about buying and selling or real estate in general and why you switched from Remax and all those fun things.
Okay. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to do that. For the real estate business, you can find me online, www.devitodreammakers.com. That's DeVito with an I. You can find me at amandadevito.com if you'd like to hire me to come and speak and train in your industry. And you can find me amanda@com on email if you need me. So there you go.
What are you speaking about? If somebody calls you about getting on the stage, what are you going to bring to their attendees?
I do talk on the Big Four. Inside the real estate professional, we talk on sort of the models and sort of industry stuff. For people who want less industry related stuff, we're doing a lot of embodiment work, burnout, kind of moving to a higher consciousness. I think that there's a lot of consciousness work, mind and body work that's sorting out right now, women in real estate. And so we can do some of that work. And then I'm a very apt realtor. And so we can always coach and train your team on the process and the transaction. So happy to do any of those things.
Who is we? Is it you and the mouse in your pocket or is it you? Is it
I
would you please
no, there's no mouse in my pocket. We, I mean, I've got 5 and full-time staff. These people help me do a
who's
lot.
the one that gets on the stage and holds a microphone?
Me.
Therefore,
It is me. No, it's
we have
all good. Listen,
the support and blessing and the knowledge that comes from working with an amazing tribe. But when somebody says they want Amanda to come in and speak and train, and you say we, now they're going to think, good Lord, do we have an entourage here? Is it Beyonce with her little
no.
qualified?
No, you get me, yeah, probably in, group 7 of the new Southwest groupings, okay? So I'm not flying first class anywhere. I'm coming on a Southwest flight to see you.
Okay, thank you. Would you please fix that next time somebody asks?
Okay. All right. I would be happy to come and serve what you need. But I'm
And
in a super service.
your
I'm in a
dad
super
watches this, by the way. Look, Dad, I got her for you. I got you, Jim.
thank you. And you have been a great example for me and a mentor. You know that you have set a path for all of us real estate agents to just put our eyes up and look at up a bigger somebody to sweep away the clouds and see that there's another mountain ahead. And you've done that for me, and I'm grateful. Thank you.
See, that's where we can say you're welcome because it's definitely an us thing. It's an
That's a
us.
we thing. But the last time I saw you in person was with Amy Somerville,
That was
Colorado.
that was a December thing, right? The women thing they were trying to do?
I don't remember what we were there for,
Oh,
but I
no,
remember
it was Platinum Diamond Team event? Maybe that was a Diamond Team event.
the 3 of us stood around and visited a long time. But you know who's at Real Broker with me is the Somervilles.
Oh, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And she's terrific. She is in between her endeavors right now, but she's going to figure out what she's doing next. And she's a lovely person and a good friend of both of ours. And so if you ever find yourself this way, we shall eat, drink, and be merry.
I am down with it because I gotta come to Colorado anyway. I've got a couple of my land friends have been after me to come see a couple of ranch things that they're doing, and I need to go
Ooh.
look at it just because
Well, I have my cowboy boots on today. Can I come?
Yes, because we don't have your big ranches y'all have in Colorado out here. I can get you 400 acres, but it is not 20,000 acres.
Yeah, there's a lot of land and ranch opportunities here. It's an entirely different business. But man, we can't go into that today because we will just go down one of those rabbit holes.
But you should come to the National Land Conference next year. It'll be in Atlanta. I think it's in March. You're a member of RLI, right? The Realtors Land Institute?
I am not.
Okay, well, we're going to fix that because you'll love it. It's all the nerdy people that would have the conversation we're having right here.
Yes.
And we don't have time to go into EUDR, but y'all can see that on my Substack, and we'll talk about that next time because you're totally coming back again for a part 2. And if y'all think Amanda should come back for part 2, say something in the comments. Say something nice about her. Say something that Jim can read when he finds this episode because he loves his baby girl so much. And I do too. So thank you for coming on the show. I'm so glad that your girl reached out and didn't know that we were friends so that we could hang out together and let our audience enjoy learning and hearing and just thinking.
Yeah. Well, thanks for giving me a voice, and I'm grateful. And you look very lovely, and that hairspray's working for you, girl. You keep it up.
You know, CVS brand Tresemme. Let's go. All right, y'all, hit the bell to subscribe. And most importantly, come back and see us next time. Well, friends, if that episode made you laugh, think, or shout, oh, gosh, go ahead and smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on that little tiny bell so you don't miss the next round of Real Talk with Leigh Brown.